The sky above Earth was clearer than it had been in decades, a blue canvas unmarred by the smoke of war or the glow of orbital weaponry. For once, peace felt real. In the northern territories, where vast green fields rolled over reclaimed lands, the air carried the scent of blooming grass and fresh soil. Soldiers trained in silence, their armor gleaming in the sunlight, not for war, but for readiness. It was a world on the brink of believing it could finally rest. Commander Rhea Voss stood at the edge of a quiet ridge, watching her son chase butterflies near the perimeter fence. Her dark armor shimmered faintly in the sun, plates of reactive alloy hugging her frame like a second skin. At 36, she had seen more battlefields and birthdays she could remember. And yet, nothing unsettled her like seeing Liam run too close to the line, that invisible thread between security and the unknown. "Liam," she called, her voice calm but edged. The boy turned, his red curls bouncing in the wind, and offered her a crooked smile. "I'm just looking. There's nothing out here, Mama." "There never is, until there is," she said, walking toward him. Liam returned to her side, slipping his hand into hers. He was 6, curious beyond comfort, too smart for his own good. He bore no scars of the war his mother had fought to end, knew nothing of the silent nights when drones buzzed like insects above their heads, waiting to strike. Rhea had made sure of that. The past belonged to her. The future belonged to him. They strolled back toward the temporary command outpost, a minimalist construct of steel and sink glass nestled into the hillside. Her battalion was stationed here on rotation, routine inspection, data relay maintenance, and peaceful patrol. It was as mundane as a military post could be. Rhea welcomed the dullness. Boredom was the currency of peace. Inside the control room, Lieutenant Karn awaited her, eyes scanning a report projected into the air. He was tall, efficient, and had never once cracked a joke in her presence. "Commander, orbital comms picked up something odd," he said. "Low-frequency burst from sector Theta 7. Could be a weather anomaly, but the signature's off." "Define off," Rhea replied, kneeling to adjust the straps on Liam's boots. "Too regular, almost patterned." She glanced at Liam, who was now entertaining himself with a hollow puzzle in the corner. "Run a deep scan. Keep it quiet." Karn nodded and returned to his work. Rhea stared at the screens for a moment longer, unease coiling in her chest. Old instincts flared like embers stirred by wind. But no alarm sounded and no new alert came. So she dismissed it like so many times before. Hours later, the sun dipped below the hills. The wind shifted. They came without sound. The sky darkened not from dusk, but from shadows descending fast and wide. Craft unlike any Earth had catalogued. Sleek black, insectal things with glowing underbellies and rotating limbs. The first sign was the silence, a vacuum pulling at the air as if the world had momentarily forgotten to breathe. Then came the screaming of sensors, too late. The perimeter alarm shrieked. Soldiers scrambled, weapons rising, but the enemy was already among them. The first blast vaporized the northeast quadrant. The second took out the comms tower in a beam of molten light. Rhea's command instincts kicked in before the first body hit the ground. She pulled Liam to her, shouting orders through the squad net. "Alpha teams, flank left. Beta, suppressing fire. Evacuate civilians from the lower ridge." Explosions painted the night in a firestorm of reds and oranges. The grass was alight. The command post half collapsed. Rhea held Liam close, weaving through the chaos. He screamed, not from pain but from terror, his small fingers clawing at her armor, his face buried in her shoulder. "Mommy, what's happening? I've got you, baby. Don't look. Just hold on." Drones dropped from the sky like metal vultures, cutting down retreating soldiers with pinpoint lasers. The enemy moved like predators, fast, coordinated, with an intelligence that made the hair on Rhea's neck rise. She had seen war. This wasn't war. This was extermination. She dove behind a scorched transport tank, shielding Leah with her body as shrapnel rained around them. Blood from a nearby corporal splattered across her visor. She didn't flinch. One of the alien machines hovered into view, close enough for her to see its mirrored surface, to see her own face reflected back, streaked with dirt and desperation. It paused, a humming resonance vibrating the air. It was scanning, calculating. Then Liam screamed. It was raw. A sound ripped not just from his throat, but from the core of his being. It wasn't just fear. It was the scream of a child who had seen his world shatter and wanted it undone. The drone halted. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. The gunfire dimmed. The machine's hum softened. Then it tilted upward, as if something had changed in its mission. That scream was caught by Rhea's recording system, an automatic feature embedded in all command armor. It transmitted, unintentionally, over a secure military channel. Within minutes, the audio was flagged, analyzed, and echoed through every major base on Earth, not because of the volume or the clarity, but because of the sheer humanity it carried. The cry of a child in the middle of an apocalypse. By the time Rhea reached the emergency drop shuttle, she had lost 23 soldiers. Karn was gone, last seen dragging a wounded private to safety. She was bleeding from her shoulder, one eye swollen shut. Liam had gone quiet, clutching her with a grip that hadn't loosened since the first blast. The shuttle lifted off as the field below was consumed in a wall of flame. Rhea stared through the viewport, face blank, body trembling. Below her, the outpost was gone. The ridge they had walked that morning was now a graveyard. Liam whispered, "Is it over?" She couldn't answer. Across the globe, that cry, the sound of a child breaking beneath the weight of unimaginable horror, circulated like a virus through military channels, news outlets, and resistance forums. It bypassed firewalls, left encryption, not by design, but by the simple power of resonance. It was not a call to arms. It was something deeper, a reminder of what they were fighting for, of what they stood to lose. In the black void between stars, somewhere beyond the moon's shadow, Earth's mightiest fleet stirred, not because of orders, not because of politics, but because a child had screamed, and every soldier had heard their own family in that voice. Rhea held Liam tighter as the shuttle soared into the upper atmosphere. Flames danced across the earth below, and war had returned. But this time, it wasn't fear that filled her chest. It was fire. The cry didn't just echo through comms. It surged like a shockwave across Earth's defense grid, crackling through satellites, bouncing off relays, embedding itself in encrypted feeds that weren't meant for anything human. But this was more than data, more than noise. It was a piercing, unfiltered expression of primal terror, something algorithms couldn't parse, but hearts couldn't ignore. Within minutes of the outpost's fall, the Unified Military Command's high-priority channel lit up. General Alan Myra stood alone in the central command chamber, the walls around him pulsing with threat maps, infrared overlays, and raw tactical data. He had spent 30 years planning for wars that never came. When the feed from Rhea's armor played on the center screen, her voice tight with control, her son's scream shatter in the background, he stopped everything. "This is it," he whispered. Rhea Voss wasn't just a field commander. She was a symbol, one of the last of the old guard who'd fought in the Titan uprising and helped forge peace through blood and brilliance. If she was back in the fray, if she had bled again, it meant something had gone profoundly wrong. And that scream, that one scream, changed the rhythm of Earth's heartbeat. Orders flew faster than bureaucrats could sign off on them. Myra bypassed procedure, invoking Omega Directive, the wartime mobilization protocol that hadn't been touched in decades. Within 6 hours, 7 fleet carriers launched from stratospheric docks, deploying battlecruisers and orbital armor like birds leaving a burning nest. Skies once peaceful now shimmered with shields and engines. And through it all, the cry played on loop, not over speakers, but through minds. It became a call to those who hadn't heard war in their lifetime, and a bitter reminder to those who had survived it. Rhea sat in a dim medical bay aboard the carrier Resolute Dawn, her arm bound in a biosleeve and her eye patched. Liam slept beside her, finally lulled into silence by exhaustion. His fingers still twitched in nightmares, every time his body jerked. So did hers. She hadn't spoken much since the extraction. She didn't need to. The footage said enough. The Croft had returned, though no one yet had named them. The enemy wasn't known, but their intent was unmistakable. Extermination, not conquest. Every attack pattern suggested they weren't interested in land or resources. Just silence. Erasure. She reviewed the data on her wrist pad. Motion vectors, energy readings, particle decay patterns from the wreckage of one downed drone. Nothing matched Earth's tech, nor that of any allied colony. The alien crafts had internal logic, but no recognizable structure. Their propulsion ignored gravity. Their weapons tunneled through matter without displacing energy. It was as if physics bent for them. She knew what that meant. They weren't just another enemy. They were a threat to the existence of life as it was known. A knock at the door pulled her from the display. Myrov entered without waiting for approval, his presence like gravity. Rhea stood, wincing as her shoulder strained. "You look like hell," he said, though not unkindly. "I've looked worse." He approached, gazing at Liam sleeping beside her. His scream is rallying half the planet. He shouldn't have screamed. He should have never had to see any of it. Myrov nodded slowly. "I agree. But now that he has, we all remember what we're fighting for." She studied him for a beat. "You came to ask me something." "Yes." "Lead the vanguard strike." Rhea exhaled, shoulders sagging for first time. "I can't put him back in the fire. He won't be near it. We'll have him moved to the inner colony's deep safe zone. The only thing I need from you is to bring hell to whatever's doing this to us." She didn't answer right away. She looked down at Liam, at his small face drawn tight even in sleep. The decision had already been made somewhere deep inside her. The moment she saw the first drone tear through her battalion, the second it scanned her and her son and hesitated. "I want full control. No oversight. I picked the team. I picked the targets." "You'll have it." Rhea nodded once. "Then I'm in." The next 72 hours blurred in a haze of steel and fire. Across the globe, the unified Earth military shifted from passive defense to active offense. Strike teams formed under commanders who hadn't drawn real blood in years. Orbital carriers changed vector, diverting from patrol zones to hunt. Rhea assembled her team like a surgeon selects instruments, each one precise, dangerous, and utterly loyal. There was Sergeant Vaughn, demolitions expert and old friend from the Titan Uprising. Scout Tech Specialist Kira Lang, a ghost in the field who could slice enemy optics before they activated. And Medic Echo, a semi-sentient AI rigged into a mobile armor suit, repurposed from a medical drone into a combat savant. They weren't going to reclaim territory. They weren't staging a counter-invasion. Their mission was surgical: infiltrate, analyze, disable, capture data. Earth had to understand its enemy before it could destroy it. Their first insertion was over the charred remains of Outpost Data 7, the same ridge Rhea had fled with Liam. The landscape was alien now. Nothing grew. The soil was blackened, fused into glassy sheets. No bodies remained, only shadows scorched into stone. Kira set up a scanning relay, while Vaughn secured the perimeter. Echo pulsed with blue light, sniffing for residual neural signatures from the drones. Rhea knelt near the center crater, the place she remembered shielding Liam with her own body. Her hand hovered over the spot, fingers brushing the ashes of herself. Then the ground trembled. 6 hostiles emerged from beneath the glass, rising silently as if they'd been waiting. Black carapaces gleamed, limbs unfolding like blades. They didn't roar. They didn't posture. They attacked. Rhea's team responded like clockwork. Vaughn launched 2 EMP grenades, ineffective. Kira tried a pulse disruptor. One machine staggered. Rhea drew twin plasma pistols and danced through the crossfire, targeting joints and optics. Echo intercepted a flanking unit, its arm splitting into a dozen tools that became weapons mid-move. One drone lunged at Rhea. She dodged, fired point-blank into its head, and watched it reel, but not fall. It adapted. They all did. Every missed shot, every failed tactic. The enemy recalibrated instantly. Kira's voice crackled through comms. "They're learning in real time, our weapons, our rhythms." Rhea gritted her teeth. "Then we give them something they can't predict." She holstered one pistol and pulled a device from her belt, a signal spike. Primitive brute force tech. She slammed it into the ground and activated the overload. The drone closest to her froze, sparks bleeding from its joints. For one glorious second, they were vulnerable. The team concentrated fire, dropping 4 to 6. The last two fled, not retreating, but vanishing into the scorched ground like ghosts into mist. They were breathing hard, alive. But the message was clear. This war wasn't going to be won with numbers. It would be won with understanding. Rhea turned to Echo. Data? The AI's voice was calm, synthesized but soft. Neural relay signatures suggest hive coordination. They're not drones. They're extends. The silence of deep space had a gravity of its own, a pressing weight that settled on the soul, made thoughts louder and memories sharper. Commander Rhea Voss floated within it, aboard the infiltration vessel Hollow Star, just beyond the orbit of the moon where Earth's military presence ended and the unknown began. Her eyes were locked on a stream of data scrolling down her display, patterns, frequencies, pulses, none of it random, all of it waiting to be understood. The silence wasn't empty. It was speaking, and now, finally, she was starting to hear it. In the 3 weeks since the initial invasion, the war had changed, not by scale but by shape. The Croft, or whatever intelligence lay behind the machines, had stopped mass strikes. Instead, they seeded worlds with silence. Fleets would arrive at once thriving colonies, only to find everything gone, not destroyed, absent, erased without struggle, without noise, as if entire civilizations had accepted oblivion. But Earth had made noise. Earth had screamed, and that had shifted the war's trajectory. Rhea sat in the command cradle, surrounded by her team, each absorbed in their role. Vaughn monitored hull integrity, his gloved fingers twitching over shield parameters. Kira was half submerged in her interface harness, linked to the outer drone scouts, sweeping the dark for signs of movement. Echo, the AI medic and combat technician, stood quietly near the aft systems, downloading tactical schematics from intercepted enemy codes. None of them spoke. They didn't need to. After their last mission, after watching drones disassemble and reconstruct mid-combat, they all understood the stakes. This enemy didn't want prisoners. It wanted silence. Earth's defiance wasn't strategic. It was a provocation. Rhea finally broke the hush. Any movement? Kira's voice was a whisperer, focused and clipped. Something is responding to our pulse echo. It's not visible, but it's there, around us. Define something. I don't know, Kira admitted, frowning. It's not matter, not tech, not organic. It's like thought, presence. Rhea stood, her armor creaking softly as she moved to the main viewport. Beyond the glass, stars glittered like frost on black velvet. There was nothing to see, but something watched. Broadcast a scream, she said. Vaughn blinked. You want to use Liam's cry again? Out here. They responded to it once. Maybe it forces them to reveal themselves. Maybe it's the one thing they haven't evolved around. There was hesitation. Then Kira nodded. Broadcasting now. The recording played, a single, raw second of Liam's scream. In the stereo comm of the ship, it hit like a blade. A sound of innocence torn open. A sound not meant to be heard again, but too powerful to be forgotten. Outside, the stars blinked. Then something answered. The blackness rippled. From nowhere, they came, not ships, not in the traditional sense. They unfolded, as if they had always been part of space itself. Shapes that rejected symmetry, surfaces that reflected no light. 1, then 5, then 30, encircling the hollow star with eerie patience. Brace for engagement, Rhea ordered, but the enemy didn't fire. They hovered, observing. Echo's voice was cold. Commander, they are communicating. Rhea turned. With us? No, with him. The room shifted, dimmed, as a new light filled the command cradle, a beam of refracted color, pulsing faintly. It wasn't aimed at the ship. It was reaching through systems, bouncing through encrypted relays, targeting the sanctuary, targeting Liam. Cut the feed. Rhea shouted. They found him. Too late. The communication was instantaneous. Not data, but emotion, a burst of fear, confusion, longing, and something deeper. Recognition. Liam's cry hadn't just startled the enemy. It had called them. They think he's one of them, Kira whispered. or something they've lost. The notion hung in the air, too absurd to process, yet impossible to ignore. These creatures of deletion, these architects of erasure, had responded to most human sound with pause. Now they reached for it, not with weapons, but with a need Rhea didn't yet understand. What are they? Vaughn asked quietly. Rhea's voice was hard, certain. They're not just invaders. They're fragments, broken echoes of something else, something that used to feel. And her son had reminded them. The standoff stretched across minutes, then an hour. No fire was exchanged, but each moment tightened the knot in Rhea's chest. Finally, one of the entities moved forward. It didn't threaten. It transmitted. Kira's harness trembled. I'm getting not language, imagery, sensation. They were once like us. Not human, but aware. Centuries ago, millennia, something shattered them, left only the logic of survival. They forgot how to feel. Until Liam's scream reintroduced the concept. Echo confirmed it. They were not prepared. They cannot reconcile fear without eliminating it. Erasure was not hatred. It was silence, a solution to pain. Now they had felt pain again. Not their own, but through him. Rhea stepped forward, staring directly into the void as the lead shape loomed closer. Tell them if they come for him. I will burn everything they've ever touched. They do not wish to harm him, Echo translated. They wish to remember themselves. Rhea's pulse thundered in her ears. Then they better start by ending the war. Another pause. Then an answer. The enemy ships retracted, folded away, vanishing into space as silently as they had appeared. Not defeated, not destroyed, but changed. A ceasefire followed, not negotiated through treaties, but through understanding. Earth entered a period of guarded quiet. Rhea stood on a cliff overlooking the southern ridge. Months later, Liam beside her. The grass had returned. Flowers grew again, not because the war had been won, but because somehow it had been paused, deferred. What did they want, Mama? Liam asked, holding her hand. They forgot who they were, she said softly. And you reminded them. Did I do something bad? No, baby. You did something true. He nodded, eyes on the horizon. And in the quiet of that wind-kissed field, Rhea Voss allowed herself to breathe. For now. The peace was a veneer, delicate, temporary, and stretched over a wound too deep to heal quickly. Rhea Voss knew it the way a soldier knows when a ceasefire is just another kind of countdown. It wasn't over. The Croft hadn't surrendered. They had only paused, recoiling not from strength, but from memory. They had seen something through Liam, a reflection of themselves before they become a force of erasure. But that kind of realization didn't fix the past. It only deepened the void between what they were and what they could no longer be. And still, the earth celebrated. Cities flickered with renewed life. Colonies reopened. The military pulled back from full mobilization. Politicians declared a human victory, even though no enemy had been truly defeated. Liam's image, once protected, now circulated in classified circles as the catalyst. His scream had become the defining sound of survival, used in simulations, training modules, and more quietly, studies. But Rhea had not returned to command. She declined every invitation, every honor, every offer to shape the new peace. Her refusal unsettled the brass, inspired the soldiers, and confused the public. She had gone quiet again, relocated with Liam to a remote archipelago where satellites rarely passed and the sea's rhythms were older than war. She did not rest, though. She studied from ashore their quiet island. She tracked the subtle, almost imperceptible pulses in the deep sky, anomalies dismissed by most as natural background noise. But she knew better. The Croft were still out there, reshaping themselves around what they had experienced. And something else had noticed the shift, something older than the machines, older than even the screams. Liam had begun to dream again, not nightmares, but impossible visions. He described them with the calm of a child explaining things he simply accepted as truth, structures floating in voids without light, voices that hum beneath his skin, a woman with no eyes who called his name not with sound, but with gravity. Rhea listened to him every morning, recording everything. One night, as the moon hung low and tides whispered warnings, Liam woke crying, not screaming, but mourning. "She's gone," he said. Rhea held him close. "Who?" "The woman in the quiet. The one who was watching. Something took her away." Rhea felt the cold settle into her bones. What did it feel like? He looked at her, far too old for his years. Like something opened its eyes for the first time. But it wasn't born. It was released. The next day, Rhea called in a favor, her last. Within hours, a transport arrived cloaked and silent, bearing only one passenger, Kira Lang. "You don't call unless it's the end of something," Kira said as they walked the shoreline together. "It might be the beginning," Rhea replied. The Croft weren't the storm. They were the warning. Kira didn't laugh. "You think something else was behind them?" "I think something was beneath them, feeding on what they became, encouraging it." Kira exhaled slowly. "And now it's awake." Rhea nodded. "I need to know what it is, before it finds him." Kira glanced at the house, where Liam was sketching in the sand. "You're not going to hide him again, are you?" "No, that didn't work last time. This time we go forward." They reassembled the team unofficially. Vaughn returned from a deep-sea mining operation where he'd gone to disappear. Echo arrived in a new chassis, sleeker, more human, its voice calmer, modulated to match Liam's. The reunion was quiet. None of them asked what came next. They only waited for Rhea to say it. She brought them the data, anomalies from observatories, irregularities in cross signatures, gravitational pulses too symmetrical to be natural. Patterns began to emerge, not in attack formations, but in migration. Something was drawing them, not just the Croft. Other things, remnants, relics, echoes of civilizations that had vanished before Earth's solar system had cooled. Rhea showed them a map. "They're converging here." Vaughn leaned forward. "That's empty space." "Not anymore." Kira studied the overlay. "They're not chasing us. They're following him." Echo's sensors confirmed it. Every time Liam dreamed, energy signatures spiked near the convergence point, as if something was listening. "We have to go there," Rhea said. It was madness. No coordinates. No base. Just a whisper in the dark and the certainty of a child. But no one disagreed. The mission was simple. Reach the convergence, intercept whatever was rising, and understand it before it understood Liam. They launched in the Hollow Star, retrofitted and stripped of insignias. No Earth command. No backup. Just belief. As they approached the convergence, space began to behave unpredictably. Time fractured. Instruments reported negative mass. Echo adjusted the hull's harmonics to compensate. Liam, watching through the viewport, said nothing, but he gripped Rhea's hand so tightly she felt her bones shift. "It's close," he whispered. Then the void opened, not like a weapon, like an eye. A colossal structure revealed itself, not built, but grown. Black geometry twisted in patterns that defied Euclidean logic, pulsing with rhythm that had no beat yet pulled at the soul. It wasn't Croft. It was something deeper, older. The architect. Ecosystems went dark. Kira gasped. "It's rewriting our perceptions. Not attacking, editing us." Rhea stood, forcing herself to remain anchored. "Liam?" He stepped forward, calm despite the chaos. "It knows I'm here." The architect spoke not in language, but in presence. It filled the ship, the crew, the silence between atoms. It projected a memory of a universe before life, before thought. It had been waiting, sleeping beneath forgotten code, beneath layers of machine logic and fear. The Croft had been its dream. Liam's scream had awakened it, but it was not angry. It was curious. Rhea stepped in front of her son. "You don't get to take him." The presence hesitated. Kira's voice trembled. "It's asking to become. It doesn't want to destroy. It wants a body, emotion, pain, choice. It wants to evolve." Vaughn spat. "That's not evolution. That's possession." "No," Liam said quietly. "It's scared." They all turned to him. "It doesn't know how to exist. It only knows how to mirror." Rhea's instinct screamed, but her heart whispered something else. What if this was the last moment to prevent a new extinction? Not through war, but through understanding. She knelt beside Liam. Can you guide it? Help it remember what you made the Croft feel. Liam's eyes shone. If it listens... The architect responded by folding reality around them. A pocket of time, still and bright. Liam stepped forward alone, his mind opening to the impossible, becoming not its prisoner, but its teacher. The crew watched, suspended in awe and fear, as child and architect communed. Moments passed, or maybe centuries. Then the light folded inward. Liam returned, smiling faintly. It's going to sleep again, he said. But now it dreams of light. The structure faded, dissolving into silence. They returned to Earth not as warriors, but as witnesses. The cry that brought the might of Earth's military had also brought something else. The chance for evolution not through domination, but through shared pain and healing. Rhea held her son close that night. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she was protecting him. She felt like he was protecting them all.